I want to tell you something I wish my father had told me. Something that, if I had known it at 28, would have saved me more than $10,000. Not all at once. Slowly. Deal by deal. Conversation by conversation. Because nobody told me that silence is money. It was a Tuesday afternoon. I was 28 years old. A contractor came to give me a bid on some work at the house. He sat across from me, flipped open a folder, and said, "I can do the whole job for $22,000. And then he looked at me and waited. And I felt this pressure, this pull, this almost physical need to say something, to fill the air. Because silence felt like weakness. Silence felt like I didn't know what I was doing. So I said, and I can still hear myself saying it, "That sounds reasonable." 3 words. That's all it took. 3 words I didn't need to say. And in that moment, I walked away paying full price for something I absolutely did not have to. Now, 3 weeks later, my neighbor, same contractor, same type of job, gets a bid for $18,000. Same guy, same materials, lower price. I asked him how he did it. He said, "I didn't do anything. I just didn't say anything." $4,200. That's the price of 6 seconds of silence that I didn't have. And that wasn't the first time. It wasn't the last time either. Salary negotiations, car dealerships, business contracts. Over the years, I added it up. And it wasn't a small number. It was a habit that cost me over and over again, because nobody ever sat me down and taught me this one thing. Let me be more specific about what I mean by it added up. Because it wasn't just the contractor. A few years later, I needed a used car. The dealer offered it at $14,500. I thought that was fair. And then I started talking. "I like this one. The mileage is good. It drives smoothly. The color works." 3 sentences in, I had told him everything he needed to know. I wanted that car. We settled at $13,800. My friend bought the same model, same year, different dealer. He said nothing after the offer. Just sat there. The dealer came down to $12,400. That's another $1,400 for staying quiet for 7 seconds. And that's when I finally understood. This wasn't bad luck. This wasn't a coincidence. This was a pattern. Every time I felt uncomfortable with silence, I filled it. And every time I filled it, the other person knew exactly where I stood. They knew I was interested. They knew I wasn't walking away. And the moment they know that, you've handed over your leverage. Not because you're weak, not because you're bad at negotiating, but because nobody ever told you that staying quiet was an option. So in the next few minutes, I want to show you three things. First, why almost everyone makes this exact mistake, and it's not your fault. Second, the psychology behind why silence is so powerful that even MIT researchers have studied it. And third, a three-step system so simple you can use it this week. Let's start with the mistake. Here's the thing about silence. From the time we were children, we were trained to fill it. Raise your hand in class. Speak up when you're asked. Don't just sit there. The quiet kid was the awkward kid. The one who answered fast was the smart one. And so we learned. Silence is something to be afraid of. Something to fix. But here's what nobody told us. In a negotiation, in any conversation where something is at stake, silence isn't awkward. Silence is pressure. When you stop talking, the other person doesn't relax. They feel it. Their brain starts working against them. And most of the time, they start talking themselves into giving you a better deal. There's actual science behind this. Researchers at MIT, some of the smartest people in the world, found that when someone pauses in a negotiation, both parties shift from what they call automatic mode into a deliberative mindset. That means instead of reacting, they start thinking. And when people think more carefully, they often make better offers for everyone involved. But here's the part I love most about this. It's not just about getting a better deal for yourself. The research shows that when silence is used well, the other person actually feels better about the outcome too. Because they had time to think. They made a real decision, not a pressured one. That's the kind of deal that lasts. That's the kind of deal where everybody walks away feeling good. Now, let me give you the system. 3 steps. Simple enough to remember right now. Powerful enough to use for the rest of your life. Step 1. State your position clearly. And then stop. If someone gives you a price and you want to push back, you don't need a speech. You don't need to explain yourself. You just say, "That's a little higher than I was expecting." And then you stop. Full stop. No but. No however. No, I mean. Just those 6 words. And then silence. Step 2. Count to 7. Silently in your head. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 seconds. Not 3. Because 3 isn't long enough to feel uncomfortable. Not 10. Because 10 starts to feel like something's wrong. 7 is the sweet spot. And while you're counting, keep your eyes on them. Calm expression. Slight nod if you need to do something. But do not speak. I want to tell you what 7 seconds actually feels like in a real conversation. It feels like forever. The first time you try this, you'll be convinced you're being rude. you'll think the other person is offended. You'll feel every second like it's a minute. But what's actually happening? They're filling it. I've seen contractors drop their price. I've seen employers say, well, we do have some flexibility. 7 seconds of quiet did more work than 5 minutes of negotiating. Step 3. Let them speak first. After your 7 seconds, whoever speaks next is the one who moves. If they hold the silence too, you've found yourself an experienced negotiator. But even then, you've signaled something important. That you're not desperate. That you have time. That you know what you're worth. And that alone changes the dynamic of every negotiation you'll ever be in. Let me show you how this sounds in a real salary conversation. You've just been offered $62,000. You were expecting $68,000. Old you. Oh, well, I was hoping for a little more. I mean, I know the market is tough right now. Maybe we could. New you. That's a little lower than I was expecting. And then, silence. 7 seconds. What happens? More than half the time, the hiring manager will speak first and offer a path forward. Because silence made them think. Let me walk you through one more. Because this one comes up all the time. You're at a car dealership. The salesperson gives you the number. Let's say it's $27,000. Old habit. That's a little steep. I was thinking more around 24. But I understand the market's tough right now. Maybe we can split the difference. You've just given them your number. Shown them you want the car. And told them you'll negotiate against yourself. New habit. That's a little higher than I was expecting. Period. Then silence. 7 seconds. Watch what happens. 9 times out of 10. They start moving toward you. Because you gave them space to think. Now, I know what you're thinking. What if they just say no and walk away? I've been using this for years. Not once has someone walked away because I paused for 7 seconds. What they do is think. They recalibrate. They ask themselves, is this person serious? Do I have room to move? And usually, they do. They just needed you to create the space. Your silence gave them permission to come to you. That's not rudeness. That's not aggression. That's the kind of quiet confidence that nobody taught you in school. But the most successful negotiators in the world use every single day. And here's something I want to leave with you that goes beyond money. This skill, this ability to sit in silence without panic, it works in every corner of your life. In a hard conversation with your spouse. In a meeting when someone says something unfair. In any moment where you feel that pull to speak before you've had a chance to think. The person who can be comfortable in silence is almost always the person who ends up in control. Not because they're louder, not because they're more aggressive, but because they've learned the one thing most people never do. Sometimes, The most powerful response is no response at all. Now, I want to come back to where we started. That contractor. That Tuesday afternoon. That $4,200 I left on the table. I don't tell you that story to embarrass myself. I tell it because I know, from the letters and comments I get, that most of you have a version of that story too. A moment where you felt the silence and you filled it. Where you talked when you should have waited. Schools didn't teach us this. Most of our parents didn't know it either. Not because they didn't love us, but because nobody taught them. That's why I'm here. That's what Last Generation Stories is. The things your family didn't know to pass down. The lessons that cost real money, real time, real heartache to learn. Passed on now, so you don't have to pay the same price. Before your next negotiation, write down these 3 steps. State your position. Count to 7. Let them speak first. Try it once this week. Just once. Maybe it's at the car dealership. Maybe it's asking for a raise. Maybe it's negotiating with a contractor. And if it works for you, come back and tell me. I read every comment. I'd love to hear your story.